that Ghana data protection is basically an evolving issue in the country, but it's been a concern or a practice in other countries for quite some time. So as to the uptake and the awareness of the public and some entities, we cannot fully suggest that everybody is aware of it.
Which then brings the need why we have to have this conference. All right. So, but beyond this, right, do we need conferences like this?
I think we do, to raise public awareness, to educate people regarding legislation that is new, that is different, that is complex. This is a new legislation. People are still trying to find their feet. They're still trying to figure out what compliance looks like. What does it mean to be compliant? It's been changing. It's changed again. There are new amendments. Now we have the DPA 2024. We had the 2018 one. Now we have the 2024 one with new amendments to keep up with the global trends and to also accommodate businesses to make sure that at least they remain innovative and it's not stifling businesses in terms of what they need to do in innovation. But I think it's something we need those conferences to have these conversations, to talk to regulators, to talk to the new commission, which is the new kid on the block, to find out what does compliance look like, what do businesses need to do, what do government need to do, and what do citizens need to do in terms of their data and protection of their data. And practically, what does compliance look like?
All right. So this obviously hits the consumer sin. As a consumer, I'll know what it relates. However, we still find in the name of banks, when you swipe go certain stores, I'll just name them Buchopis or Spa or whoever, where after you swipe, right, they ask you to write your number on the same receipt that has got everything about your banking details on it. Is that abnormal practice as far as banking is concerned?
Well, that is precisely the essence behind this conference, so that we can know exactly what is expected of the consumers as well as the service providers. So at this stage, I cannot say, as per the data compliance law, that is what they're expected to do.
All right. But how is it important to me, though? Because as a person, I'm a daily banker generally. It doesn't matter whether I have a bank account or not. I'm going to find myself interacting with banks somehow. What is it that I have to know about my information and how I give it out?
I think before you answer, I think it's important to know where your information is sitting. So if you are with your bank, you want to know what type of information they're keeping over and above what you've already given them.
And how long they keep it for?
How long are they keeping it for? Where are they keeping it for? Are their systems safe? Do they have proper IT infrastructure in place? And that's what the new legislation is saying. It's saying that besides training your staff, do you have proper infrastructure in place to store this information, to make sure that it's protected, to make sure that it's not vulnerable for somebody who's going to hack? So at least you know, is it safe? What mechanisms are in place to ensure that your personal information is safe and it's not going to be circulating in different WhatsApp groups where you're seeing your banking details being circulated and discussed. So it's them, they're trying to be responsible. It's saying, let your bankers, let the banks, let organizations be responsible when it comes to keeping, storing, and collecting people's data. And be transparent on how long you're keeping it for, and make sure that people have access to it, so that when you want to update, change, or delete it, you have the right to request that.
All right, which then brings this part. As banks, though, were you ever consulted in the setting up of this act, or do you find it compliant or at least in line with what you do?
Well, like I indicated earlier on, the data protection aspect is a universal issue. And obviously, Botswana cannot remain behind, because we have to trade with countries that expect us to be data compliant. So there have been, to some extent, yes, consultations, but I cannot guarantee, because we are not here speaking on behalf of the Commission. I cannot say the stage, the extent, or the level of consultations that we made.
All right. So now, when we look at where we need to go as a country as far as this is concerned, Botswana has some information. It's not going to fall, or it's not going to go and hunt for it unless something wrong goes on, right? What should we do to make people aware of these changes as they go on?
I think conferences like this are essential.
Okay.
I think also social media plays a pivotal role in actually educating and sharing information with Botswana, because everybody has a smartphone, everybody has social media. So just putting this up on social media and educating Botswana about their rights and their powers and their duties when it comes to Data Protection Act, I think that's the most important thing. And just collaborating also with media houses to disseminate this information and sharing this information with them.
All right. So now, when we look at businesses and financial institutions, as far as this is concerned, are we always ready for the changes as and when they happen? Because we are always ready.
Yeah, no, we cannot at this juncture say everybody is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you normally realize that there is issue of resources that can actually hinder other organizations from following what the Data Protection Act requires. It would be much easier for bigger institutions, but for small and medium institutions, they are normally impaired by lack of resources.
All right. So obviously it doesn't also only fold to banks. We go to banks first because we still are Nabucco. However, we saw with the recent KYC run, the mobile companies.
Yes.
They got to a point where they just simply outsourced. I got a call from someone who said, I've been assigned by this particular network to come and do your KYC. I felt uncomfortable with that, to say, why am I not at the office? Why is it a cell phone? Why is this person actually now telling me directions to my house at that point in time?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
What kind of controls should we hope for?
So I think just to make sure that entities are more responsible with your data and they're more transparent with your data. For example, asking for consent. If they're going to outsource and they're going to use a third party, they need to let you know. You need to consent and you need to let them know that you're comfortable with them using the third party and the reasons to why they're using the third party and what information are they going to give. And do you consent to it and are you fine with it? Because they shouldn't be giving them, again, more information than necessary. They should be giving them just enough for them to be able to carry out their obligations and their duties in terms of your contractual arrangement and agreements. So that's what it's about. It's about transparency, it's about accountability, and it's about, at the end of the day, you as a consumer, you as a client giving your consent and saying, I consent to you passing my information, whether it's for commercial reasons, but I need to know why you're passing my information to other people.
Right.
Well, just to add on to what she said, you have to appreciate, Dore, the whole idea behind data protection is to protect your privacy. Yeah. So these things that we are currently complaining about are exactly what the Data Protection Act wants to address. So that is why it's very important that everybody else becomes part of this conference. That is where we are going to hear the discourse, where people are going to talk about the Data Protection Act, challenges that they and the best practices that are out there for us to follow.
All right. So now there is this thing of obviously KYC, right? It's a twofold. Like it works for me as a consumer, but mostly works for the country. At what point is KYC relevant to the country, especially with this growth of money laundering issues and so on? At what point should I realize that my KYC is necessary for the protection of the country and the banking institutions as well?
Can you address that one?
Yeah, I think also it's important when you advise people and you let people know and inform them why you're collecting the information. If it's for KYC purposes, make sure that it's limited to that. Make sure it's limited to combating AML, combating anti-money laundering. Make sure it's for those reasons to comply with money laundering legislation. Yeah. So I think the most important thing is to communicate with clients and consumers, because most of the time when we were doing this KYC, most people do not understand. They're like, but you already have my information because I am your client, I am your customer. So why am I giving the information again? I think it's important for people to be transparent. Why do I need to divulge my information? Where's the information that you had? Can I see that information? And that's what this act does. You are allowed to ask to access your information to see really which information do they have. Why do they keep asking for new information all the time or for the same information? Where are they storing it? So I think it's just important for entities to also be transparent and just be transparent and truthful. Why do they need your information? So that you also know and you're not hesitant to give people information.
All right. And that then brings the issue of lifespan of my information, right? Every 12 months I must do KYC. Is it necessary? when my Omang has my KYC for 10 years?
Most of the time when you do KYC is to update your information. How your information has changed. So maybe your physical address has changed, where you are working has changed, you've changed employment. So usually it's for that, is to update, right? And sometimes maybe annually, because it's best business practice, people's lives changes, marital status, maybe where you're staying, or maybe where you're working also changes. So basically it's just to update the bank or to update the entity that things have changed. This is my accurate information, because data always has to be accurate. So it goes with the KYC and AML laws that data should always be accurate to maintain the integrity of you as an individual and of your data.
Right. So let's look at enforcement. We know that these acts are new. Really, really isn't much that can go on. We're still looking for the commission to tell us what's supposed to take, what they're supposed to take. But looking at enforcement, is it enforceable? Data protection. If I have is it enforceable?
Well, we cannot say it is not, because this country is not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
It's a process or something that is going on already in other places.
Yeah.
So as far as enforceability, maybe you are talking about the capacity of the commission. But at the end of the day, it's something that we know is doable.
All right.
Yeah.
So now let's go into the conference, right? I think we've got an overview, and Botswana now understands why data protection is important. Tell us about the conference and what is happening.
Well, the whole idea behind this conference is, as an institution, we're an institute of training and development. Yeah. So we also have an obligation or an object of trying to improve, or rather advance and promote government policy, because we serve the intermediaries of finance, which are the banks. So it's in the interest of the sector that people know what to do with the information that they have. So this conference is a proactive initiative, considering that the Act is now going to become in effect in January. And obviously, the expectation is that at that point, everybody should be aware of what the Act requires of him, and everybody should be in a position to comply, or should have already complied. All right. So that is the essence behind this. So that is why we are saying there's an opportunity for everyone who is affected by this policy, by this Act, to come and sit together to discuss and see. It's a kind of a learning kind of environment where you're going to share ideas. You're going to learn from those who have already done it, and also probably get to appreciate the challenges that are there, so that probably you could avoid them.
Yeah. Which then brings this, right? When you say everyone must go there, so the biggest, the institutions that carry the largest number of names in this country, right, is colleges and universities. Above the banks, colleges and universities have got more data about people more than any other institution in this country. Are you involving those guys? Because there's a point where they'll probably be tempted to sell phone numbers to Jet or...
It's an overarching act. It's a law that applies to everybody. And there are those that it applies to even more, like the colleges that you are referring to.
Yeah.
So this is open to everybody who handles personal data. So we'd expect them to be even more interested.
Yeah.
Because they literally use or handle much more data than other entities.
So expanding that target though, who else are you targeting? Except for obviously colleges and insurances. They have a lot to do. But who else are you targeting in this thing?
Your health sector, your telcos, they also hold large amounts of data, SOEs as well, because for the first time, the previous act did not mention clearly that this also covers state-owned entities, whereas the new act clearly states that state-owned entities also
utilities.
So
gambling authority.
Absolutely. So we need to see them also abiding and upholding this, so that other people and other institutions can follow. They need to lead the way, and they need to show us that they're also compliant.
Yeah, no, I can already imagine, because this digital world is now changing. From passport to Omang to your cell phone, everything, your gambling history or your water usage. That's a lot of data that probably investors want to also find out on. I hope statistics is also involved because they are running around with a bit of a survey that they're doing. Yeah.
No, definitely.
So how do we end up being a part of this conference?
Well, all you have to do, there are two things that you can do. You can actually participate as a delegate, or as an entity, you can send delegates. But you can also participate as a sponsor. So we have several categories of sponsors that we expect those who are keen to address the issue of data protection to those sponsorship packages for them to take them up and sponsor the conference.
All right. And how do they contact you to end up being a part of this thing?
Well, we have shared the contact details.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
They call us on, what is the number, by the way?
Or maybe your social media pages, if you get a social Facebook page.
We have a Facebook page. We have also Instagram page, I think. Yeah, those are some of the contacts that they can use to contact us.
No, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing this conference. I think what it contains, it's an expanded thing. All of us are worried about our information. We are going into Christmas. I've never been in a motel, but I got a motel SMS. I don't even know how. So these things get people worried. Thank you very much for making time to come through.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, so thank you very much for watching. As you see that the conference coming up on the 5th of December, wherever you are, please jump into your social media and look for the Institute for Banking and Finance, and you will be able to find out more information on the conference that's coming up. I was with the acting CEO, Menyatso, as well as Mele George from the organizing committee. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Morafe mongwe le mongwe o fitlhelwa mo lefatsheng leno o na le mmino o kaiwang ka one ka go dumelwa e le wa ngwao ya morafe o. Mengwe ya mebino e fitlhelwa mo lefatsheng leno e tshegeditswe ke morafe wa bakalaka ke wa dihosana. Dihosana ke mmino wa setso o tswang kgakala ebile go dumelwa o tlholegile kwa kgaolong ya bokalaka ka o simolodisitse jalo ke batlapele ba letso la sekalaka. Hosana